I am often asked the question, especially since I've been doing this series on narcissistic relationships, what are the differences between people who are identified as codependent and people who are identified as narcissists or far along on the narcissistic spectrum of behaviors? What are the differences and what are some of the similarities? This is a very far-reaching question, which is not always easy to answer because, once again, we have to remember that each person is unique. Each person's sets of old wounds, strengths, behaviors, coping mechanisms in life are different. We all have our own unique way of handling the vicissitudes of life as well as the joys and the sorrows and everything in between. But basically, in my current understanding of it, after working now for over 30 years in this field, as an intuitive and as a life and relationship coach and a love mentor, generally speaking, one of the reasons that codependents are often so aware as they go through their healing process that they've been in relationship, often more than once, with people who are crazy makers, drama kings and queens, and narcissists, sometimes full-blown, and sometimes, as I said before, at varying degrees of the spectrum of behaviors that we identify with this particular set of issues. Part of the reason they find the question needs to be asked in their own healing process is that there are sometimes similarities. And once you know what the similarities are, you really can make different choices. Information does help us to discern very differently as we go along in life. So what are some of the similarities? Some of the similarities are that there is a proclivity for feeling somehow fundamentally inadequate. And that's an illusion, but that's the feeling tone of it, or the BS, the old belief system, that there's something inherently broken or wrong about the person, and therefore they have to constantly look outside of themselves for affirmation, for the battery charge in its narcissist and crazy makers, and the connection with another person on a very deep level, which will hopefully be lasting, and which can take on a very addictive flavor with the codependent. The codependent has much more usually of an ability to have staying power in a relationship, where the narcissist often will cut and run, have approach avoidance behavior. Usually the codependent is so eager to have a relationship that they will often glom on to somebody who seems to have at least a few of the qualities they're looking for and hoping for, and yet their behavior may be so erratic and so terribly unsteady that it frightens the codependent, and on some level it resonates with the codependent because it is a reminder of a very early time in their lives, usually when their primary caregivers or someone very close to them in their earliest years, perhaps even infancy, was behaving in a way and had an energetic quality that this person does, who might be a partner. This can happen also, by the way, in work relationships, in close friendships. Codependency can happen with anyone. Codependency is a form of addiction. Narcissism generally has some addictive flavors at times, but overall, I don't tend to identify it with. This is my belief based on my own experience in the field. I'm not trying to say this is all written in stone. I'm simply at this point offering something for you to think about and bounce off of and answer a number of questions that I've often been asked by viewers who are concerned that over and over again they've found this quality of being pulled into the narcissist orbit of influence and relationship. Narcissists generally will not maintain relationships long term. A codependent will often want a relationship to last, even if it's not pleasant, even if it's dysfunctional, even if there's addiction going on, alcoholism, pot smoking, regular smoking, workaholism, so that they rarely ever get the kind of attention and quality time that they usually crave from their partner. And I think really, in some ways, the biggest major difference is that there is a tremendous desire on the part of the codependent to be, which they normally are very naturally, very tuned into their partner, very deeply empathetic, very nurturing, often extraordinarily compassionate, and patient, believe it or not, with all the nonsense and unsteadiness that they're exposed to with the Jekyll-Hyde behavior of the narcissist, the approach avoidance, the disappearing act that occasionally occurs, often without any explanation, the blaming, the feeling of being a victim of life that the narcissist often will display, or in the case of a covert narcissist, the kindness and the positive, wonderful qualities that the covert narcissist will display in public, but will display just the opposite often in the privacy of your life with him or her. So that would be the major difference, because a narcissist has such an armoring around their heart that it is hard to make any kind of a real lasting attachment, and very hard to feel empathic with another human being's plight, unless it is a specific replication of something that they've been through. I will give you an example of this, which may help you understand it better. Someone who I knew very well, who was very narcissistic, really had a hard time, still probably, we're no longer in touch, but somebody who really had a very challenging time trying to understand what anybody else's pain was all about, unless it was something that he had been through. And so when situations would come up where I would say, you know, so-and-so's having a problem, let's call him up, let's have him over, or take him out, or go for a ride, or walk, whatever, but let's let him know we're thinking about him and we care, because he's just lost his partner 6 months before. This narcissistic individual said, oh my God, I lost a partner. I know what that feels like. It's horrible. Okay, I don't particularly have any desire to speak to that person, but you call and you go and take them for a walk or out to dinner. And I'll see you later. Now, for this person, that was a big deal, because at least he was able to say, yeah, that hurt. But again, it was out of his own experience that he could do that. I mentioned a number of other situations in our time of association where if it hasn't been something he'd gone through, he had zero sympathy and zero ability to have any understanding. He had no desire to have any great understanding of this, because it didn't affect his happiness personally, or his survival, or his well-being. Again, that self-absorption is so typical of the narcissist, and so unfortunate, because it really does limit how your life can touch ongoingly the lives of other people. The codependent is often sympathetic and loving and nurturing to a fault, and sees, and this is where it becomes dysfunctional sometimes, the other person's challenge or difficulty or loss or mourning or whatever's going on, and feels an almost knee-jerk response to rescue or fix, and has a perception that the person is somehow broken. Well, nobody is broken. Everybody is functioning at their own level at any given moment, and sometimes we function more effectively than other times. But nobody's broken. We are all whole and healthy and complete, and that is the truth. And the other impressions that we might feel sometimes emotionally are only a reflection of what's going on in the moment. If somebody's had a tremendous loss, if somebody is in a situation where they're feeling very threatened that they're going to lose where they live, or they've just lost their job and are not sure where their next employment is coming from, where their next income is going to flow into their lives from, it's understandable that unless they have the kind of deep faith where they just turn it all over to Spirit and say, I know you've got my back, God, and I know you're my source, therefore I have nothing to worry about because you brought me this far and I know you're not going to abandon me now, they're going to be afraid. They're going to be terrified. A codependent will jump on this very often with all the best of intentions, and sometimes enables people then to not look for the new job, to just kind of feel badly for themselves and say, oh, baby, you've had a rough time. Let's take a couple of months off. I bet a lot of this sounds familiar to you. I hope it's been helpful. There are so many wonderful qualities that even people who have severe codependency, like loyalty, for example, like kindness, like, as I said before, compassion, empathy, the ability to give care and take time with you. Codependents often offer this. But the trouble is, it's a matter of degree, it's a matter of boundaries, it's a matter of considering yourself first, which codependents almost never feel it's their right to do. And so they look outside of themselves way too much, feeling they always have to put the other person's benefit first. We all have to learn that we have to fill our own well first, otherwise the well is going to run dry. So whether you think you may be dealing with a narcissist, or you may think you have been dealing with a codependent, all of it is healed more and more as we understand that we are divine beings and that we have a light within us and that there is no void. So whether it's narcissism or crazy maker or codependency, whatever it is, it's all based on an illusion of lack, when the truth is we are abundantly, joyfully made. And we don't have to look outside of ourselves, and we do need to consider our own well-being first before we can give with the generosity of spirit and benevolence we want to give to others. Until next time, I am Beverly Banov Brown. It has been marvelous to have the honor, really, of preparing this material to share with you, and I hope it helps. You're in my loving prayers every day, wherever you are, whoever you are. See you next time. Bye for now.